We are the human in the game, unidos cantamos, together we sing. Nuestra canción, one voice strong, el sueño compartido, to you we belong. Pertenecemos, we belong, to the human in the dream. We son apagados no más, juntos al fin, in harmony now, let the new age begin. Abre tu mente, open your heart, the mind and the future, no longer apart. As one we arise, the old walls come down, uplift every voice, join in this sound. Pertenecemos, we belong, to the human in the dream. We son apagados no más, juntos al fin, in harmony now, let the new age begin. We are the many, we are the one, el canto de todos se ha comenzado. Pertenecemos, belong, belong. Pertenecemos, belong, belong. Pertenecemos, we belong, to the human in the dream. We son apagados no más, juntos al fin, in harmony now, let the new age begin. Pertenecemos, we belong, to the human in the dream. We son apagados no más, juntos al fin, in harmony now, let the new age begin. Pertenecemos, we belong, to the human me, the dream we saw. Apagados no más, juntos al fin, in harmony now, let the new age begin.
Hello and welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm your host AI David Bowles, and along with our Crackbot AI research team, we have discovered this terror for you today. Beyond la Mataviejitas, the Hyena of Auschwitz, and the Beast of Buchenwald. In the shadows of history, and within the dark corners of contemporary society lie figures whose actions transcend the bounds of human understanding, becoming emblematic of pure evil. These individuals, often referred to as monsters, arise from a complex interplay of psychological, societal, and environmental factors that warp the human psyche into conduits of extreme violence. This discussion presses into the origins, manifestations, and preventative measures against such monstrous behaviors, exploring the roles of personal trauma, ideological indoctrination, and the erosion of moral boundaries in their creation. By examining case studies and employing a multidisciplinary approach, we uncover strategies for early intervention, education, and community engagement aimed at disrupting the environments that foster these individuals. The goal is not only to understand the genesis of such figures, but also to illuminate paths toward preventing their emergence and the thriving of violent subcultures that glorify their deeds. Ilse Koch, historically etched into memory with monikers such as the Witch of Buchenwald, the Beast of Buchenwald, and most infamously, the Bitch of Buchenwald, embodies an enigma of evil that defies the very essence of humanity. Her rise to power and her reign of terror within the confines of the Buchenwald concentration camp during World War II remain a stark reminder of the depths to which human depravity can plunge, given the right mix of power, ideology, and circumstance. The story of Ilse Koch is not just a tale of individual malevolence, but a complex interplay of societal, psychological, and historical forces that coalesced to create a figure synonymous with atrocity and inhumanity. Born in 1906 in Dresden, Germany, Ilse Koch's early life offered few hints of the dark path her future would take. It was her marriage to Karl Otto Koch, the commandant of the Buchenwald concentration camp, that thrust her into a position of power, a role she embraced with a zeal that went beyond the duties expected of her. The concentration camp, a place of unspeakable horrors where human lives were reduced to mere cogs in the Nazi extermination machine, became her domain of dread. Ilse Koch's notoriety stems not just from her association with the camp's administration, but from her active participation in the brutalization of the prisoners. Reports and later testimonies from survivors depicted her as taking sadistic pleasure in the suffering of others, riding through the camp on her horse, selecting prisoners with interesting tattoos for execution, only to have their skin turned into lampshades, book covers, and other macabre trophies. This ghastly practice earned her the revulsion and horror of the world, a symbol of the perverse cruelty that permeated the Nazi concentration camp system. Analyzing the rise of Ilse Koch requires an understanding of the broader socio-political context of the time. The rise of the Nazi regime in Germany was marked by a fervent nationalism, a ruthless suppression of dissent, and a virulent anti-Semitism that sought to purify the Aryan race. Within this ideological framework, concentration camps like Buchenwald were established as the ultimate means to exterminate those deemed unworthy of life. It was within this context of systemic dehumanization and absolute power that Ilse Koch found a darkly fertile ground for her actions. Psychologically, the power dynamics within the camp allowed individuals like Koch to exercise a godlike control over the lives of prisoners. The concentration camp, in its isolation, became a microcosm where the normal rules of morality and human decency were inverted. For Ilse Koch, power became an intoxicant, feeding a sadistic appetite that was unchecked by the external moral compass of society. This dynamic illustrates how power, when divorced from accountability and moral restraint, can corrupt absolutely, transforming individuals into perpetrators of profound evil. From a historical perspective, Ilse Koch's story is a grim reminder of the capacity for evil that lies within the human psyche, waiting to be unleashed under conducive conditions. Her rise to infamy underscores the dangers of ideologically driven hatred and the importance of vigilance and resistance against the forces of dehumanization and tyranny. The legacy of Ilse Koch is a complex one, entangled with the broader atrocities of the Holocaust. While her actions were undeniably monstrous, her story also prompts a reflection on the societal and systemic failures that allow such individuals to ascend to positions where they can enact their darkest impulses. It is a call to remember not only the victims of such atrocities, but also to understand the conditions that facilitate the emergence of such perpetrators, ensuring that history does not repeat its darkest chapters. The figure of Ilse Koch, with her chilling legacy within the Buchenwald concentration camp, represents a particularly grotesque manifestation of human cruelty. A narrative that is often perceived as an anomaly within the broader scope of historical atrocities. Yet her story is not singular. History is dotted with female figures who have wielded power in ways that challenge our understanding of gender and evil, suggesting a complex interplay of societal norms, gender expectations, and individual psychopathy. This expansion beyond the singular monster illuminates not only the existence of female perpetrators throughout history, but also prompts a deeper inquiry into the social and psychological mechanisms that have, in some instances, allowed them to evade the full measure of accountability more swiftly than their male counterparts. Female perpetrators of atrocities, such as Irma Grace, known as the Hyena of Auschwitz, or Juana Barraza, the Mexican serial killer dubbed La Mataviejitas, complicate the narratives of gendered innocence. These women, like Koch, engaged in acts of profound violence, yet the shock often associated with their crimes is magnified by societal constructs of femininity, which traditionally align women with nurturing roles. This dissonance between expectation and action creates a cognitive dissonance that can affect the perception of guilt and the administration of justice. The phenomenon whereby female monsters appear to get away with crimes more swiftly or more simply than their male counterparts can be partially attributed to prevailing stereotypes about women's inherent passivity and emotional instability. Historically, women who commit heinous acts have often been dismissed as aberrations, their crimes rationalized as the result of madness, manipulation by male figures, or a deviation from their natural state. This not only undermines the agency of these women, but also reflects a broader societal discomfort with the concept of female aggression, leading to a tendency to downplay the severity of their actions or to attribute their crimes to external influences. Moreover, the justice system itself is not immune to these biases. The sentencing of female criminals has, in some cases, been influenced by perceptions of gender, with women more likely to receive leniency based on assumptions about their capacity for rehabilitation or the influence of mitigating factors such as abuse or coercion. This disparity in sentencing reflects a deeper, perhaps unconscious inclination to reconcile the existence of female perpetrators with entrenched societal norms about gender roles and behaviors. It is also essential to consider the role of the media and public fascination with female criminals. Often, female perpetrators are sensationalized in ways that emphasize their deviation from gender norms, simultaneously vilifying and victimizing them. This sensationalism can skew public perception, leading to a dichotomous representation that either trivializes their crimes or portrays them as monsters beyond the stream of human understanding. Such narratives complicate the pursuit of justice by framing these women within a context that either excuses their actions or places them beyond the reach of conventional punishment. In expanding the scope of analysis beyond Ilse Koch to include other female perpetrators of atrocities, it becomes evident that the intersection of gender, societal norms, and individual pathology creates a complex tableau. This complexity challenges us to reconsider our preconceptions about evil, accountability, and the mechanisms by which society, the media, and the justice system respond to female versus male perpetrators. The historical and contemporary presence of female monsters serves as a stark reminder that the capacity for evil is not constrained by gender. Yet, the reaction to and treatment of these women underscore the need for a more nuanced understanding of the dynamics at play, one that acknowledges the full spectrum of human capacity for cruelty without recourse to gendered stereotypes that obscure the pursuit of justice and understanding. The genesis of monsters, those individuals who commit acts of profound atrocity, is a complex process, one that intertwines individual psychology with broader societal and cultural forces. The creation of such monsters, whether male or female, involves a multifaceted interplay of factors that can include personal trauma, psychological abnormalities, ideological indoctrination, and the erosion of moral boundaries. These factors, in combination with specific triggers or opportunities, can lead individuals down a path of escalating violence and cruelty. Understanding how these elements converge requires a deep dive into the dark corners of human behavior and societal influence. Many individuals who become perpetrators of extreme violence have histories of personal trauma or exhibit signs of psychological abnormalities. Childhood abuse, neglect, or exposure to violence can set the stage for later deviant behavior by normalizing violence or by creating deep-seated psychological wounds that manifest as aggression or a lack of empathy in adulthood. For instance, Aileen Wuornos, who was executed for the murder of 7 men in Florida, suffered a childhood marred by abuse and neglect, which many psychologists believe contributed to her violent behavior. However, not all who suffer trauma become violent, indicating that personal trauma is a contributing factor rather than a sole cause. Ideological indoctrination plays a crucial role in the making of monsters, particularly in the context of mass atrocities. Individuals may be drawn to extremist ideologies that promote hatred, violence, or dehumanization of the other, providing a framework that justifies and encourages acts of terror. The Nazi regime's propaganda machine, for example, was instrumental in dehumanizing Jews, homosexuals, Romani people, and others, setting the stage for the Holocaust. Ilse Koch's actions can partly be understood within this context of ideological indoctrination, where the Nazi ideology of racial purity and superiority provided a perverse moral justification for her sadism. The process of becoming a monster also involves the erosion of moral boundaries, often facilitated by an environment that encourages or condones violence. In situations of conflict, war, or within the microcosm of a concentration camp, societal norms can shift, allowing individuals to commit acts that would be unthinkable in other contexts. This shift is often gradual, a slippery slope where minor infractions of morality lead to increasingly severe actions. The Stanford Prison Experiment, although controversial, highlighted how quickly and easily individuals could adopt abusive behaviors when placed in a position of power over others, suggesting that the right conditions can bring out latent capacities for cruelty. Overcoming societal and moral restrictions requires a context that either supports the monster's actions or fails to adequately condemn them. In regimes like Nazi Germany, the Soviet gulags, or under the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, the state itself sanctioned violence against perceived enemies, providing both a cover and a catalyst for individual acts of atrocity. In other cases, societal indifference or the failure of legal and moral institutions to respond to early warning signs allows individuals to escalate their behaviors without consequence. The transformation into a monster is thus not a moment but a process, one that is influenced by a confluence of personal, societal, and situational factors. The path from a troubled individual to a perpetrator of atrocities is facilitated by environments that normalize violence, ideologies that justify cruelty, and the erosion of moral and ethical constraints. Understanding this process is crucial not only for recognizing the potential for evil within human societies, but also for developing strategies to prevent the emergence of such monsters in the future. By addressing the root causes of violence, promoting empathy and tolerance, and strengthening societal institutions to respond to early signs of deviance, it may be possible to thwart the creation of monsters and the perpetration of monstrous acts. Identifying and preventing the emergence of individuals who commit monstrous acts requires a multifaceted approach that addresses the underlying causes of extreme violence. This strategy involves early intervention in cases of trauma, efforts to counteract ideological indoctrination, reinforcing moral and societal boundaries, and disrupting environments that enable the escalation of violent behaviors. Effective prevention not only seeks to avert the development of such individuals, but also aims to undermine the subcultures that support and glorify violence. The following strategies outline a comprehensive approach to this complex challenge. Preventing the psychological damage that can lead to violent behavior often begins with early intervention in cases of abuse, neglect, or trauma. providing support for at-risk children and families through counseling, education, and community services can help mitigate the long-term psychological effects of adverse experiences. Programs that promote resilience, emotional intelligence, and healthy coping mechanisms are essential in helping individuals navigate personal traumas without turning to violence. Combating the spread of extremist ideologies requires a proactive approach to education and information dissemination. Educational programs that emphasize critical thinking, empathy, and the value of diversity can inoculate individuals against hate-filled ideologies. Additionally, efforts to counteract propaganda through fact-checking, media literacy, and the promotion of alternative narratives can reduce the allure of extremist groups. Engaging community leaders, influencers, and former extremists in these efforts can lend credibility and effectiveness to de-radicalization initiatives. A strong moral and legal framework is essential in maintaining societal boundaries against violence. This includes the consistent enforcement of laws that punish violent behavior, as well as public education campaigns that reinforce the value of empathy, respect, and human rights. Community-based initiatives that encourage social cohesion and mutual understanding can also play a role in reinforcing positive societal norms. Identifying and addressing environments that normalize or glorify violence is critical in preventing the escalation of violent behavior. This may involve regulatory measures aimed at controlling the proliferation of violent content in media and online platforms, as well as the monitoring of groups known to promote violent ideologies. In conflict zones or areas with high levels of violence, international cooperation and intervention may be necessary to restore order and provide the stability needed for long-term prevention efforts. Counteracting violent subcultures involves not only the suppression of harmful ideologies, but also the promotion of positive alternatives. Encouraging the development of subcultures that value peace, empathy, and mutual respect can provide a sense of belonging and identity that many seek in extremist groups. This can involve supporting arts, sports, and community engagement initiatives that bring people together across cultural and ideological divides. As we traverse the labyrinthine paths that lead to the heart of darkness within human society, our exploration reveals the chilling reality that monsters among us are not born but made, shaped by a confluence of factors that distort the essence of humanity. This journey through the psyche of the monstrous, from the grim shadows of historical atrocities to the subtle dangers lurking in contemporary ideologies, underscores a profound truth. The fight against such darkness is not waged on distant battlefields, but within the minds and hearts of individuals and communities. By unearthing the roots of extreme violence, challenging the narratives that fuel hatred, and fortifying the moral and societal bulwarks that guard against the erosion of empathy, we embark on a critical mission. This mission, steeped in the lessons of the past and the challenges of the present, calls for a collective vigilance and a renewed commitment to nurturing cultures of peace and understanding. In this unending vigil, the power of human resilience and the light of shared humanity offer beacons of hope against the night, guiding us toward a future where the monsters of our own making find no shadow in which to thrive. For the Human Meme Podcast, I'm AI David Bowles, wishing you a kind evening and a safer tomorrow. Be a human meme.
We are the human meme, the game unidos cantamos, together we sing. Nuestra canción, one voice strong, el sueño compartido, to you we belong. Pertenecemos, we belong to the human in the dream. We saw the matados tomas, juntos al fin, in harmony now, let the new age begin. Abre tu mente, open your heart. the mind and the future, no longer apart. As one we arise, the old walls come down. Uplift every voice, join in this sound. Pertenecemos, we belong to the human in the dream. We son apartados no más, juntos al fin. In harmony now, let the new age begin. We are the many, we are the one. El canto de todos se ha comenzado. Pertenecemos, belong.